Begin today the Gemara on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, 8 lines up from the bottom of the Amud where it says Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. My Dechsiv. Yes? Oh, here you are. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, My Dechsiv. What is the meaning of the pasuk where it says Vatasa Adam Kedgei Yam? The man is compared to the fish in the water. Keremes le'moishel bay, like the creeping, crawling things that nobody rules over it. What does this mean? The first part of the pasuk, the Gemara Darshans, a person is compared to the fish in the water. L'man nimshulu b'nei Adam, what are the people, the Yidden, compared to Kedgei Yam, to the fish in the water? Lei malacha, this comes to teach. Ma dogim shebiyam, just like the fish in the water, kivin sha'ilun liyabasha miyad mason, as soon as they go out from the water onto the dry land, they die immediately. Af b'nei Adam, so too, the Yidden, kivin shapayshim edivrei Torah min mitzvahs, as soon as they separate from learning Torah and from fulfilling mitzvahs, or in other places it doesn't add this point about the mitzvahs, miyad mason, immediately they die. So in other words, the point the Gemara is making is that Torah is not just an added thing that can get you to a higher level, but this is the very life of the person. Without this, a person can't live at all. Davar Achar, another pshat in the comparison of the Yidden to the fish in the water. Just like the fish in the water, as soon as the sun penetrates and shines strongly on them, miyad mesim, they die. They can't handle this heat. Kach b'nei Adam, so too people, miyad mesim. When the sun shines strongly at them, they die. Now, what is this referring to? This could be referring to now, in this time, as the Gemara will explain. Or it refers to Olam Haba after Mashiach comes. Rab Chanina said, Hakol b'dei shemayim, everything is in the hands of heaven, that meaning that whatever illness or problems a person has comes to a person as a decree from heaven. Chutz mitzinem pachim. Besides, when a person gets sick because of cold, exposure to cold, or he's cold, a pachim, and heat. These are two kinds of sicknesses that is in the hands of the person. Shenem, as the pasuk says, tzinim pachim, b'derech ikesh, tzinim and pachim, a person goes in a crooked path, shemen afshe yichak mem, a person that's careful with himself will stray far from this. So we see that it's in the person's hand. So this is Bizman Hazeh. If the sun shines on a person, that can cause him harm. Or this refers to Olam Haba. Rab Shimon ben Lakish, Ein Gehenim, Lasad Lave. Lasad Lave, there's no Gehenim. Ella, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Meitzichamim min Artika, the Eibusha takes the sun out of its shield that blocks the full strength of the light of the sun. Magdir, and the sun penetrates and shines very strongly. Rishayim the Dainim Ba. The Rishayim are judged by this. The Tzadikim is Rapimba, and the Tzadikim are healed by this light of the sun. The Rishayim are judged and punished by the sun. The Chsiv, as the pasuk says, Ki hine ayoyim ba, the day is coming, baya ketaner. It'll be burning hot like an oven. And v'hoya kol zaydim v'chol oiser isha, all those that do Avedis are going to be like kash, velat, oisam, and on that day. And that day that comes, they'll be like straw that will be burning in the fire of the heat of the sun. And then the pasuk concludes that there won't be left from them not a root and not a branch, which means they have no root in this world now, that they would give them reward now, and no branch to rely on to get reward in Olam Haba. That's regarding the Rishayim. Tzadikim is rapim ba, the tzadikim are healed by the light of the sun. The Chsiv, the pasuk says, "V'zarch lechem yirei shemesh." That yirei shmi, that is, those that fear my name, the sun will shine for them. Shemesh, tzedakah, umarpe b'chnafed. The sun will be righteousness and a healing for them. And v'loy oid, and not only will it be a healing, elishem is adnim ba. With the light of the sun, they will have pleasure. Shenema, as it says in the pasuk there, v'yitzasem, will fish them. You will go out and you will be fattened, ke'egle marpik, like the calves that are going into the barn. Davar Achar, another pshat regarding the comparison of Yidden to water, to the fish in the water. Ma dogim shebiyam, just like the fish in the water, kol hagadol mechavere b'leis chavere. That when you have a large fish, it swallows the small fish. Af b'nei Adam, so too by people. Il male meirash al malchus, if not for the fear of the kingdom, of a government, whoever is greater and larger and more powerful than his friend, he would swallow up his friend. And V'haina the Tanan, this is what it says in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Rab Chanina, Sagana Kayanim Oimer, have mispal b'shloim mishal malchus davin for the well-being of the government, because if not, for the fear of government, one would swallow his friend alive. Rav China bar Papa asked the following contradiction in the pasuk. In one pasuk it says, Shakai loy matzonu sagi koyach, that the Eibishter we don't see revealed in his actions his great power. But in another pasuk it says, Gadol adineinu v'rav koyach, the greatness of our master, the Eibishter, and his great power. In other words, we could see it. And also, the pasuk says, Yimincha Hashem nadari b'koyach. So is the Eibishter's koyach revealed and seen or not? And says the Gemara like Kashi, it's not a contradiction. Kam b'shas adin. When the Eibishter judges Yidden, so he doesn't allow the full strength of his koyach to be expressed, because then everyone would be annihilated. And Kam b'shas Muhammad. But in a time when he fights a war, there the Eibishter fights with his full might. Rab Chama bar Chanina asked the following contradiction. Ksiv in one pasuk it says, Chema ainli. Hashem says, I have no anger. Or Ksiv in another pasuk it says, Neikim Hashem. Hashem takes revenge. Ubal Chema, and he's one with anger. And says the Gemara like Hashi, it's not a contradiction. Kam Yisrael regarding Yidden, Hashem says, I have no anger on them. And Kam ba'evdikachavim. Regarding Goyim, Hashem says he takes revenge and he has anger. Rav China bar Papa says, Chema, ainly, when the pasuk says, I have no anger, what does this mean? Although it said in the pasuk that we brought afterwards that Hashem has anger, but what it means is, Shekvar nishbati, because I already took an oath that I will not allow that anger to be expressed. Mi itneini shaloi nishbati, who would give that if I would not swear, then Shama v'shis, then every, so you read this, v'shayis, then the Eibishter says, then everything would turn into thorns and to be desolate. That's if Hashem would not take an oath. But Hashem has anger, but he took an oath not to allow the anger to be expressed. Okay, Adkan. Now, the continuation of the Gemara, according to Rashi, behind the Amar Alexandri, is connected to a point that it said before, regarding this, that the Eibishter gives the Goyim a second chance, la'asad lavai, when they come and they want to get a reward, they don't want to be punished, and the Eibishter gives them a second chance to do mitzvahs, gives them the mitzvah of sukkah. That's what this Gemara is a continuation from. According to Tosfos, this Gemara is a continuation from what it says before, that by Goyim, the Eibishter expresses his full anger on them. This is what Rabbi Alexandri said. What's the meaning of the pasuk that it says about Goyim, that it'll be in that time, Avakesh lahashmid is called Hagoyim. And Eibishter says, I will ask for a sort of permission to annihilate all Goyim. Says the Gemara, Avakesh, Mimi, Hashem is asking that he should be allowed. From who is he asking? So Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter says, Avakesh benigni shalahem. I'm going to look in their books that say their actions of what they did. Or Tosfos says, nigni means look at their very actions, and I'll see what it is that they did and they deserve to be annihilated. So im yesh lehem schos, if they have a merit, evdem, I'll redeem them. V'bim lav, if they have no merit, ashmidem, I will immediately annihilate them. So according to Rashi, it's saying here that the Eibishter will give them a chance. He will look into their actions. According to Tosfos, Adarabeh, the Gemara is saying that if he doesn't see his chos, he'll immediately annihilate them. This is what Rava said, that regarding this, there's a difference between the way the Eibishter treats Goyim and Lahavdol Yidden. What's the meaning of the pasuk where it speaks about Yidden and it says, Ach loy be'i yishlach yod. The Eibishter does not send out his hand with the full might, im bepidoi lahen shua, even when there is pidoi, which means destruction. There's help for them. What does this mean? Amal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, the Eibishter tells Yidden, Kishani donis Yisrael. When I judge Yidden, and for punishment, they're not judged and punished the same way like Goyim. Because by Goyim it says, Ava, they sin, Ava asimeno. I will turn them into Ava, which means that they'll be destroyed. The Goyim. So meaning by Goyim, the Eibishter, he sees that they sin, he immediately annihilates them. But Ella by Yidden, ani nifra mehem, I punish them, kipid shotar negailis, like the pecking of a chicken, that it pecks little by little in the garbage, and so the Eibishter punishes little by little, but not all at the same time. It gives them a chance that then the Eibishter punishes them, and then in order they should be able to be Yidden, or Zeichet to Ilam Haba. Davar achar another pshat, afile ein Yisrael oisem mitzvah lefanai ki im ma'at. Even if you didn't do only mitzvahs, a few mitzvahs, and it's capitual tanagailim, like the pecking of a chicken, shemenakrim ba'ashba, that it pecks in a garbage, ani mitzarfon l'cheshben gadol. The few mitzvahs here and there, the Eibusha says, I will take them and combine them all to the big number for their merit. Shenamar and bepidoi, this pasuk that we just quoted, bepidoi means that they do just mitzvahs that the pecking. Lahan shua, they will be saved through this. Shua means not only saving that, but in the schar they even daven and scream to Hashem. Ani Mashiach Isam, I will save them. This is also what Rav Abba said. What's the meaning of the pasuk where it says, I am here to redeem Yidden, and they speak about me falsehood. What does this mean? Ani amarti. Hashem says, I said, I will redeem Yidden through giving them suffering in money matters in this world. What's the reason for this though? So they will be atoned for the Avedis in this world, and then they'll have Olam Haba. But the Yidden complain and speak out against me for this. In the name of Rav said also similar. The pasuk says, I brought them suffering, I strengthened their arms, and they consider it to be something that I'm doing bad for them. So Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibusha says, I said, I'll give them pain in this world, so they'll be strong in Olam Haba. But they consider this to be bad. So the Gemara brings a story connected to this. Mishtabach lahu Rabavo lemini b'Rav Safra dadam gadolhu. Rabavo was praising in front of the heretics Rav Safra, that Rav Safra is a great man. So when they heard this, seemingly they were, I guess, in charge in the government. So Shafkale Michzi, the place Shanin. They did not collect taxes from him for 13 years. He's a Talmid Chacham, so he doesn't have to pay taxes. Yom Echad, one day, Ashkechu, they found Rav Safra. So they asked him a question. Amruleh, they asked them, Ksiv, the pasuk says, Rak escham yedaitim mikol mishpachois ha'adama. The Eibusha says, it's only you that I know, or that I love, from all nations of the world. And al kain efkoid aleichem as kol avenesechem, and therefore I'll remember all your avedis. So they asked, Man de islei sisya, one that has fury, berachme masekle, he lets it out on his beloved. So what does it mean? The Eibusha says he loves Yidden, therefore he will remember their avedis. Ishtik v'lo yamalu v'lo midi. So Rav Safra was quiet and he didn't answer. So they saw he doesn't have what to answer. So they took a handkerchief and they tied it around his neck. And they were giving him pain. Here he didn't pay taxes for these 13 years, and we thought he's a Talmid Chacham. And look, he can't answer this question. So Asa Rabavo came Ashkechinu, and he found what they were doing to him. Amalahu, so he said to them, why are you causing him this pain? Amruleh, so they said to him, but didn't you say that he's a great person? But he can't even explain us this pasuk. Amalahu, so Rabavo said, when I said to you that he's a great person, he's a Talmid Chacham, betanoi, in the Mishnayos and the Halachas. Did I say that he's great in the psukim and explaining the psukim? So they said to Rabavo, so why are you any different and you know how to teach the pasuk? Amalahu, so Rabavo said, since we are amongst these heretics that ask us these questions on the psukim, so we pay more closer attention and look into the pasuk to know how to explain, how to answer the questions that you ask. But they, Rav Safra, other Talmid Chachamim, loy ma'aynim. They're not ma'ayim in the psukim to have such an answer for such a question. Amrulei, so they said to Rabavo, so levelanat, tell you, so you should tell us the pshat in the pasuk. Amalahu, Rabavo said to them, I'll give you an analogy. What is this compared to? Person that's collecting money from two people. One is his friend, and one is his enemy. His friend, he allows him to pay in installments. However, his enemy, he pressures him to pay it all at once. So here in this pasuk, when it says the Eibusha loves Yidden, and then it says the Eibusha will remember their avedis, it means he remembers from time to time. He doesn't punish them all at once, and he gives them a chance to do tshuva. Amar Abba Bar Kahane, Ma'idich Siv. What's the meaning of the pasuk where it says Chalilo lecha ma'asayis kadover hazeh laham is tzadikim rasha? That Chas v'Shalom Hashem should do such a thing to kill a tzaddik with a rasha. Amar Avram of Ner Kadosh Baruch Hu. Avram says in front of the Eibishter, this is by Sidon, where he was davening to Hashem not to turn over the city of Sidon. Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe. Chulin hu me'asayis kadover hazeh. This is mundane, not a proper behavior for the Eibishter to do this. Laham is tzadikim rasha. That a tzaddik should be killed with a rasha. In fact, the Gemara, but v'loi, do we not find that this happens? But v'aksiv, the pasuk says, v'chratim imcha tzaddik v'rasha. I will wipe out both the tzaddik and the rasha. And says the Gemara, b'tzaddik she'ein agam. That pasuk is speaking about a tzaddik, it's not a complete tzaddik. Aval b'tzaddik gomer loi, but the Gemara asks, but what if it's a complete tzaddik? So there he will not suffer with the Rishayim. But v'aksiv, it says, by the churban of the Beis HaMikdash, mimikdashi tachelu, that the destruction should begin from Mikdashi. And V'tani Rav Yosef said on this, Al tikri mi Mikdashi emel mi Mikudashai. Those that are holy to me. Elu b'nei Adam shekaimu satayre. This refers to people that fulfill Torah, mi Aleph, V'atov. Everything in Torah. And so they're tzaddikim gemurim, and still it says that in the time of the Churban, the destruction began from them. And says the Gemara Nahasam Nami, but there as well, Kim Shahaya b'yadam limchais v'loi michu, since they had the ability to protest against all the averis that happened at that time, and they did not protest, have a look at tzaddikim she'einam gemurim. So therefore they are not complete tzaddikim. And Taisus here says they could have protested, and the situation was that what they would say would be listened to, and they didn't, and therefore they're not tzaddikim gemurim. Rav Papa Rami, Rav Papa asked the following contradiction. Ksiv in one pasuk it says, Keil zayim v'chol yayim. The Eibishter is, there's anger every day. But Ksiv another pasuk it says, L'fnei zamoy mi yamoy. In front of Hashem's anger, who could stand? So if Hashem is angry every day, so then how do we still exist in the world? And so the Gemara like Hashi, it's not a question. Kan be yochid. If when there's anger and it's an individual, so he can't stand, and therefore there's certain individuals that the anger of the Eibishter annihilates them. And kan be tzibur. But regarding the tzibur, if there's many together, even if there's anger every day, but they can survive, they live. There's anger by the Eibishter every day, and v'kama zamay. How long is that time of anger? Rega. It's just one rega, one moment. Now, v'kama rega, how long is this rega? Achas mechameshes or mechamesh riboy ushloishes alofim. One part of 53,000 to shmeina meis and 800 va'arba mishmeina and 48 bishah in an hour. So that's a very tiny amount of time. It comes out to be, according to what I read, a 16th of a second. That's the rega that there's anger by Hashem. Zuhi rega. And the enkel barrier, rega. And there's no creature that could exactly know and see that time of that moment of this rega when the Eibishter is angry. Chutz mi bilam arasha, besides bilam arasha, the Chsibbe, the pasuk says, v'yideya das elyon, that he knows what Hashem is doing, what Hashem is thinking. So the Gemara asks on this. So the Gemara actually explains. What does it mean that is Yidei Das Elyon? Efshe Das Behemto Lo Have Yoda. Bilam doesn't even know what his animal is thinking. So Das Elyon Mi Have Yoda. He knows the day of Hashem. Says the Gemara. My Das Behemto Lo Have Yoda. Where do we see that he didn't know what his animal is thinking? Because at the time when they saw that when he came to the Yidden, he was riding on a donkey. So they said to Bilam, "My time why aren't you riding like a prominent person on a horse?" My horse is now out in the pasture. So immediately his donkey opened its mouth, and his donkey said, "I am your donkey," meaning you always ride me. Amalei, so Bilam excused himself and said, "No, yeah, you are my donkey, but I use you only for carrying packages for me." Amralei, the donkey continued and said, "Asher rachavta alai, you ride on me, not just for packages." Amalah, so Bilam still answered and said, "Akroi ba'alme, from time to time, but usually I ride on a horse." Amralei, the donkey continued and said, "Ma'oitcha va'ad hayayim hazeh, always, until today, you always ride on me." And v'loyoid, not only this, elashani oisel charichiv bayayim ve'ishus balayla. I ride with you by day, you ride on me by day, and relations, intimacy by night. How do we know this? Because Ksiv Hacha, the pasuk here says, Hahaskein Hiskanti, So these words, his haske and his kanti, uksiv hasam, there's another pasuk where it says, vatihi loy sechenes, and she was for him, she warmed him. So we see that this term means the union of ishus. So we see he didn't understand what his animal was thinking. So elamai v'yideya das elyon. What does it mean when it says that he knows das elyon, knows what the Eibush is thinking? So it doesn't mean that he knows das elyon, but rather all it means is shayideya lechaven oisa shah shakadosh baruch hu kayisba. He knew that moment, that rega, when the Eibush was angry. This is what it says in the Navi. Ami, my people, remember what the plan Balak, the king of Moav, had. What Bilam answered. And Vada Gilgal. Laman das tzidkes Hashem. So you should know the tzedakah of the Eibush, that he saved you from this. And what does this mean? The Eibush tells Yidden, Ami, my people, Ru'u, or Du'u, come at tzedakah sesisim. See how much righteousness I've done with you. That I had no anger at all in any of those days that Bilam came. Because if there was any anger at that time, there wouldn't be anything left from the enemies of the Yidden, which is a euphemism to the Yidden, anything. I mean, and this is what we see that Bilam tells Balak, I can't curse because like Kabeka. The Eibush is not. There's no anger. There's no Hashem. The Eibush doesn't allow me to curse, and there's no anger by Hashem at this time. Now again, the Gemara comes back to what it said before. How much is the length of this time of anger? Rega, just one moment. And avakama rega. How much is this rega? Omer ameimer v'iteimer ravina rega kememre. Just one moment, a moment that it takes to say that word rega. That's how long this rega is. And so according to some, what it says here, that it's as long as it takes to say the word rega is longer than what it said in Amar Aleph. In Amar Aleph, the amount that it said there came out to be, as I mentioned, a 16th of a second. And to say the word rega takes longer than a 16th of a second. So it's not exactly the same. And Taisus here says, if it's that short, a rega, so how is Bilam planning on saying the opposite of a bracha on Yidden in such a short time? So Taisus says either you could say the word kalem, or if he starts at that time of anger, then he could continue the curse as well. Okay, now from where do we know that the time of anger is just for a moment? Because the pasuk says, Ki rega ba'apoi chayim b'rtzonis. So we see that it's only a rega that's a time of anger. The pasuk says, Chavi kemat rega, hide for just a moment ad yavazam, till the anger passes. Now, Amos Rasach, when is this time of anger? Amar Abai says, Betlashoy Kamaise, it's in the first 3 hours of the day. And Taisa says it's at the end of the first 3 hours of the day. And that's Kichivre Karbalte the Tarnagayla. When you see the crown by the rooster has some whiteness in it. In fact, the Gemara called Shaita v'Shaita Michva Chivra, it always has some whiteness in it. And since the Gemara called Shaita is based Soryaki Sumki. And all other times it has these red streaks in it. Ahi shaita lesbeis or yaki sumki. And that time it doesn't have those red streaks. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, have a mitzayle ahumina. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, there was this heretic that was bothering him. Bekroi, asking him questions on psukim. So Yom Echad, one day Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi decides that he's going to get rid of him. Nokat tarnagayla. So he got a rooster. Va'ikme ben kare da arsa. And he tied it between the legs of his bed. And v'ayim bay, and he was looking to see when is that moment when he's going to see that the crown is white. So far, he thought to himself, Kimata ishaita, when it comes that moment, alatye, I will curse him. Kimata ishaita, when it came that moment, nimnim, he dozed off and he missed the time. So Amar, Yeshua ben Levi said, Shmam, from this I understand, lav it's not the right thing to do this, because it says in the pasuk, Hashem has mercy on all of His creations. The pasuk says, Gam onesh latzadik loy tov. If a tzaddik punishes others that bother him, it's not good. Tanim b'shmei Rab Meir, the name of Rab Meir was taught b'shah sham malachim manichin kisreim b'rashem. When the Goyish kings put their crowns on their heads, and they bow down to the sun, that's when the Eibishter gets angry. So according to Taisvis, this is the kings, they wake up in the end of 3 hours from the morning, and that's when they serve Avoda Zara. That's the time of Hashem's anger. Amar Rav Yosef said, a person should not daven the musaf, in the first 3 hours of the day. But which Musaf is this? On the first day, that's the Gersa that we have here in our Gemara. Some take it out, so it would be both days, the Reish Shata of Rosh Hashanah. So Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, not to daven in the first 3 hours of the day. And that is B'yochid, if he's davening himself. Why? Because since this is a time when there's the din by the Eibishter, the anger, as mentioned before, according to Rashi, it goes in that this time of anger then. So they'll analyze, look into this person's deeds, and he'll be pushed away because of this, that there's a time of anger then. So, or mitchi, he'll be pushed away. If that's the concern, so why is this only for an individual? The tzibur nami, even if it's everybody together davening in a minyan, they also shouldn't daven musaf in the first 3 hours of the day. And says the Gemara, the tzibur nefishis chosei. No, the tzibur has a lot of merits when you daven together with a tzibur, so there's no concern. The individual, not only musaf, but even if he's davening the Shemay Nesra from Shachris, so nami lo, he should also not daven in the first 3 hours of the day. And says the Gemara, even the Kitzibur, the Kamatzlo, since even if he's davening alone, Shachris, but it's a time where there is a Tzibur davening Shachris, even if he's not davening Shachris with that Tzibur, but he's davening Shachris in the same time when there's a Tzibur davening Shachris, like Amatchi. He won't be pushed away, even if it's a time with his anger. Taisus points out from here that this is where you see that if a person is davening b'yechidus and he knows that there's a minyan that davens at a certain time, he should daven at the same time that the minyan davens, even if he can't join the minyan. Didn't we say before that the first 3 hours of the day Hashem is learning Torah? So why are we concerned about the first 3 hours of the day that you shouldn't daven Musaf on Rosh Hashanah then? And says the Gemara Eipach, according to what we're saying here, we're going to have to switch the order of what Hashem does, and the first 3 hours of the day Hashem judges, and then there's also a moment of anger, and only later there's Hashem learn Torah. Or you could say Lo'elam Leitepach. We don't have to switch the order that we mentioned earlier about this. Torah, d'chsiv be'emes. Since regarding Torah it says that Torah is truth, d'chsiv emes kneva al timkar, acquire truth and do not sell it, which refers to Torah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Lefnei Mishuras Adin. So in that time when Hashem is Isaac in Torah, there is no beyond the letter of the law. It goes by what the law is in Torah. And therefore a person could be judged very harshly. Then the leksiv be'emes. But then the next part of the day, the next 3 hours of the day, where the Eibush judges, but there it doesn't use the term of emes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Lefnei Mishuras Adin. So this is a time when Hashem actually does do Lefnei Mishuras Adin. Okay, Rashi brings a pasuk where in Tehillim it says Mishpatei Hashem Emes. There is l'chayra a pasuk where it says Emes regarding judgment, but that refers to Torah, Rashi says. Okay, another point Rashi here says that this is only the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, where there's Malchi, Zechrainis, and Shofris, but not regarding other Musafim. Okay, the Gemara brings a siman for the continuation of the Gemara. It says Yom Meid Teref Be'egel Siman. Gufe. So first the Gemara brings statements from Rabbi Shua ben Levi, and some of them was already mentioned earlier. Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Ma'idich Siv, Asher Anechi Mitzavcha Hayom. I command you to fulfill the mitzvahs today. That means La'asaysam. That's part of the pasuk. Hayom La'asaysam. Today is the time to fulfill mitzvahs. But V'loy La'macha La'asaysam. But then tomorrow, La'asad Love is not a time for mitzvahs anymore. Hayom La'asaysam. Today is the time of fulfilling mitzvahs. V'loy Hayom Little Schar. And now we do not get rewarded. The real schar is La'asad Love. Another thing, Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, or Rabbi Shua ben Levi, all mitzvahs the Eden do in this world, boys, and the Edis, Eisam, Lo'elam Abba. They come and they testify for the person, the mitzvahs that he did. Shanem, as the pasuk says, Yitnu Eideim. The mitzvahs that he did in this world will come and say testimony v'yitzdaku, and you'll see the righteousness of the person. Yishmu v'yaymiru emes. And they will hear and say that this is true. What does this mean? As the Gemara here says, Yitnu Eideim v'yitzdaku Elu Yisrael. This refers to Yidden and El Yisrael. Yishmu v'yomru emes. They will hear and they will say that this is true. Elu avdikachavim. This refers to the guy that will hear this and say and agree that this is true. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, kol mitzvahs sheYisrael leisen ba'olam hazeh boys v'toyfes oisam lo'avdikachavim lo'olam haba al pneim. The mitzvahs that Eden did in this world will come la'asad lavai and smack the goyim in their face. Shenema, as the pasuk says, ushmartem. You fulfill the mitzvahs, and will be naschem. This is your wisdom that will then be le'einei ha'amim, in the face, in the eyes of all the nations. So the Gemara Darshan is neged ha'amim le'nemar. It doesn't say in front of all the nations. Ela le'eni amim. In their face, in their eyes. The mitzvahs the Yidden do today will come and smack the Goyim in their face. Rabbi Shua Levi also said, also Yisrael as a Egel, the Yidden did not do the Avoda of the Egel, of the golden calf. In other words, Abisha didn't allow this Avoda to happen. So now there should be an opening for a Bal Tshuva to say that here I see the Yidden sinned, and they did tshuva, so I could also do tshuva. Shanem, but the pasuk says, "Miyitin v'hoya levavim zeh lehem leyira isi kol hayomim." Who will give after Matan Torah? When Yidden received the Torah, so the Eibusha says, "Who will give that they should fear me all their days like now?" So it means that they had a very strong Yiras Shamayim then. They were really very, very strong. So how did they stumble and fall through in such a Avoda of the Egel? It must be that the Eibusha allowed this to happen to give an opening for tshuva for the future. Rabbi Yochanan said the same thing in the name of Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Loi David roi lo'isa ma'isa. David, it wasn't befitting for him that this should happen, the Avoda with Bathsheba. And v'lo Yisrael ru'oyin lo'isa ma'isa. And for the Yidden as well, this shouldn't have happened to them, that they served the Egel. Loi David roi lo'isa ma'isa. The pasuk says by David, v'libi cholol b'kirbi, that his heart is like empty. There's no Yetzer Hara in his heart at all. So the Yetzer Hara has no control over him at all. As the pasuk we just quoted, the Yidden then had the greatest fear of heaven. Elo lama asu. So why did they sin then? To tell you, if an individual sins, so we say to him, don't give up, you can do tshuva. Look at another individual. Look at David HaMelech that sinned and he did tshuva. And if many sin together, so we say to them, Klach Eitzel Tzibur, look at all the Yidden and see that they were able to do tshuva. Okay, let's just see the conclusion of this inyan. So the Gemara says it's necessary to show the power of tshuva for an individual and for the tzibur. Because the Yashmin and Yachid, if we would know the power of tshuva regarding an individual, I would say the reason that he has an opportunity to do tshuva, because when he sins, it's not so publicized. But the tzibur that sins, and everyone knows, and there's a chilul Hashem, so I would say that Hashem doesn't accept their tshuva. On the other hand, v'yashmin and tzibur, if we would say that Hashem accepts the tshuva of the tzibur, I would say the reason is mishum de nefishi, the Rachamayu, or the Bach says the Chusayu, because they have a lot of schusim, or there's a lot of compassion for the tzibur. But for the individual, he doesn't have all these merits. Now I would think maybe the Eibush would not accept their tshuva. Therefore, tzricha, if we had to say that Hashem accepts the tshuva both from the Yachid and from the tzibur. And behind it, Rav Shmuel ben Nachmeni, Rav Yonason, so he also said, what's the meaning of the pasuk where it says, Ne'um David ben Yishai, v'ne'um ha'gever hukam all. So the David ben Yishai, the one that was hukam all, which simply means that he got elevated to a high level. But the Gemara Darshan is Ne'um David ben Yishai shehekim ula shel tshuva. He proved and showed the power, the greatness, or the yoke of tshuva. That was the whole reason why Hashem allowed this to happen to him.